Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of the Morning Edge, episode 158. Happy Halloween, Monday Night Football. John's going to be the episode today. How are we feeling today?
I'm just living the dream, Matt.
Yeah? Dressing up?
It was a horrible weekend for me betting-wise.
Okay.
Results-wise. Betting, I got a lot of bets in, so that was good. So that
You have a good time there, betting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's bounce back Monday. That's what Halloween's are for.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, if you had a bad weekend, like you always say, you're more than due. So, I mean, and what better day to do it than a Halloween, Monday Night Football, got the World Series on today. So, a lot of ways to get that money back real quick. So, we have two props, John. We're going to hit them with them. What are you looking at?
I'm going to go Donovan Peoples-Jones, 50-plus receiving yards. That's plus 134 at FanDuel. Here's the thing. I was shocked to see that his numbers in the 40s again because he's gone 50-plus in each of his last 4 games. 3 of those games, he was 70-plus. Now, the haters are going to say that it's because the Browns were losing every game and it was a negative game script, and that's why. But they might be right. I mean, that had something to do with it probably.
Right.
Thing was, though, why won't they be behind tonight? You know, I mean, they're playing the Bengals. The Bengals are decent offense, so I don't think the Browns are just going to be able to sit on the ball. So they're going to have to throw it a little bit. I mean, I know they don't want to, but at the same time, like you have to. Sometimes you got to do what you don't want to do. You know
exactly.
I mean? That's life.
Every day that happens.
Exactly. And plus, they're underdogs. So, Vegas seems to think that they're going to lose this game and they'll play from behind. So, at the end of the day, too, I don't think it totally matters just because David Njoku's not going to be in the game, and he's kind of a target monster for the Browns. I don't think they really have another guy. I mean, Harrison Bryant might, pick up a little bit of slack, but going over the middle, they're still going to need a target, and that's Donovan Peoples-Jones. I mean, he catches a lot of his balls over the middle anyways, so I don't know. I just don't see how he goes under 50-plus. I'm not saying he's going to light it up, a $190, but at the same time, I mean, 50-plus really isn't that much.
You're not asking a ton.
No. I would never ask these guys to do too much.
Yeah, you just want them to go out there, get 50 yards, and that's it. I mean, that's not asking a lot out of these guys. I'm going to be kind of in the same area. So there's almost no way we both lose. So this is really good for you guys because these are their top 2 targets. One of us might lose, probably not, but if the other loses, the other's going to pick the other one up. So we're in a good position.
That's what they call that on the streets.
I'm going to get Amari Cooper here over 52.5 receiving yards, minus 112. So he's hit this in 4 of the 7 games so far. But I do think that Cleveland plays this game from behind tonight. And Cincinnati, I know defensively they've looked really good at times, but they don't have anyone on that defense who really scares me in the secondary. So
look who they played too. Like those are fake receiver stats.
Yeah,
they played the Falcons. I don't even think they have receivers.
Yeah, I don't even know if they have one listed.
No, and then the Saints too. Like Michael Thomas, no Jarvis.
Michael Thomas plays once a year.
They played they played the Cowboys on Cooper Rush's first game.
Yeah, that doesn't really count.
You know what I mean? And Noah Brown still went off. So.
And that's saying something because he's not even that good.
So I mean, I'm with you. Like I'm not sold on the Bengals defense being like shut down or anything.
The Bengals, exactly. They're not like a defense that's really going to shut fear into you. So I like the spot for Cooper. 52.5 shouldn't be too hard. I mean, he is their number 1 option. So I think at some point in the game, whether they go down early here or kind of one of those games where it flips in the second half and they start playing from behind, they're going to be down at some point. I do like the Browns in this game, though, to cover just because it's a weird number, like 3.5. Bengals look really good, so it's kind of one of those lines.
You want a fun stat?
What's that? Oh, you got stats.
Amari Cooper actually caught a 55-yard pass last week.
So he could literally do this on one play.
One ball. I mean, he did last week.
And Jacoby's not good, but he's not
that bad.
Yeah, he's not like
I have him firmly in my not that bad
category
of quarterbacks. Yep.
Exactly. So
he's firmly in there too. He's not like teetering anywhere. Like he's right in the middle. Just not that bad.
Pretty firm, not that bad.
Yeah, he would take like 3 or 4 games to get him knocked out of there. Like that. So
exactly.
I don't think he's not that bad.
No, and we think he's gonna have a good game tonight. So there it is. So we got Amari Cooper over 52.5. John is Donovan Peoples-Jones 50+. Throw those together, you'll probably make a lot of money. And that's gonna be it. So we got the 2 today. Any other words of advice here on this Monday, John?
I would say if you had a rough weekend, just win today. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? Like that's all you got to do when you're back. Like
yeah.
that's just how gambling works.
And
So
those
yeah,
wins will be fresh
just
in
win
your
today.
mind. Yeah, just do
Why
that.
won't you win today? That's what I
Exactly.
always say. I get in the mirror in the morning and say, why won't you win today? I never have a good answer.
Yeah, it's great inspiration. So we're gonna get the sweep, get things rolling. Hope everyone has a good Halloween and enjoy Monday Night Football. We'll see you guys same time tomorrow morning.
Thanks, Matt. Obviously, you have some awesome picks for Monday Night Football coming in. And now we want to switch gears a little bit and we want to talk about election season. And you're saying election season? What does that have to do with anything? Before you switch your channel, we're not going to be covering who each person wants to win. We care about data here at Odds Checker. We're never going to put you in an octo box and tell you who's polling at what number, this and that. We want to know about the data and how that differs from polling and where there might be some value. Now we want to bring in Matt Trapralis, former head of content at PointsBet. He's now an industry analyst. Matt, I appreciate you joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And Matt, I just want to start super basic here for people who might not be so familiar with this, because here in the States, obviously you can't bet on anything political in terms of who's going to win the House of Representatives, et cetera, but it's very popular across the pond. And why don't you start by telling us how this differs in terms of these odds than those polls that we get hit with basically every day from so many different sources?
Yeah, so I guess first off, I mean, to talk about polls, polls are basically predicated on, voter intent and sentiment, things like that. So there's a good chance that, voters, when they're being polled, either don't want to divulge truthfully what they're thinking about in terms of a candidate, or potentially they get to the booth and they decide to vote a different way than they might have indicated to a pollster. So that can ultimately lead to like a skewing of polling data, and maybe in the worst case scenario, just outright wrong predictions, which I think we all remember that was more or less the case in 2016 in the presidential election. When you look at betting markets, though, betting markets across the board, they are driven and shaped by money, and in a lot of cases, informed money. So you're not going to get the same kind of biases and indecision and things of that nature that can ultimately affect polls. So for that reason, markets are going to be a much more efficient and reliable kind of source of predicting election results.
So I want to start before we jump into the data. When you're betting on sports, they say Vegas knows best. Who would be knowing best here? Would it be, would it still be Vegas? Would it be Washington, D.C.? Where do these kind of come from?
Well, again, I think that, the kind of, wide sweeping Vegas knows is a little bit of a fallacy. It's more that it's the market. Vegas odds makers, they're great at what they do, right? They are able to use their own power ratings and their understanding of the market to kind of set the opening lines. Then after that, it's the market that takes over. It's the market that's going to shape the lines, that's going to pound them into efficiency. And that's why, like, for instance, in the NFL, come Sunday morning, you're betting into a very, very efficient and mature market. So the same thing goes for election markets. They're going to open, and money is going to drive them and shape them. And ultimately, for the most part, that is going to be a much more reliable kind of indicator than polling, which, as we said, kind of has the issues that we just discussed before.
So let's dive into the data now. We'll start with the House of Representatives. We've been hearing for months now that it's the Republicans to take. What are we seeing from the betting data?
Yeah. In this case, the data and the polls are pretty much in lockstep. You have basically the House is predicted according to both the polls and the markets to be taken by the Republicans at about 90% implied probability. I think that another kind of tie that we can make to this is trends in sports. They don't always have the most weight. Politics, especially in midterm elections, I think we know that the midterm election, specifically the House of Representatives, is generally a referendum on the party in power. That is very much the case here, barring something really crazy, it's that the Republicans will be retaking the House. I think that if you want to maybe kind of equate it to sports, it would be kind of like the Texans going into Buffalo and beating the Bills. So not impossible, but highly improbable.
Not impossible, but I think we can sleep knowing that it's probably not going to happen, right?
It's safe to say.
So what about the Senate now? Because that seems like a little more of a toss-up, right?
Yeah, this is kind of where betting markets and the polls begin to diverge a bit. If you look at the polls, 538 has the Senate as effectively a dead heat. The markets are indicating that Republicans have a distinct advantage. The implied probability of the odds say that the Republicans are looking at about a 65% chance to win the 51 seats that they would need. Obviously, that's what they need to take control, as opposed to the 50 that the Democrats need. So, there's a bit of a discrepancy there, and it's pretty tilted toward the Republicans taking the Senate if you're looking at the markets as opposed to the polls.
Now I want to kind of take everyone through a couple of key Senate races. This one has been getting a ton of headlines. Down in Georgia, you have incumbent Democrat Raphael Warnock, and you also have Herschel Walker, who was a former NFL running back. There's been a lot of headlines from both sides in that race. What are you seeing from that data?
Yeah, this race is pretty emblematic of the greater Senate race. Polls pretty much have it as a toss-up, as opposed to the battle for Senate control. The markets are actually more in line with the polls in this one. Warnock is a slight underdog. He's about plus 120, so not quite a toss-up, but it's very much anybody's race.
I want to talk about how we're connecting this to sports now, because we've been kind of dancing around this. Do you like Warnock to win at plus 130, or what about the Falcons to win the NFC South at plus 210? Because I think there's maybe some good value on both of those bets, right?
Yeah. I think you may be right. I think a better question maybe, could Herschel Walker actually be a benefit to the Buccaneers' run offense right now, given everything that's been going on with that team. But I think given the option, I would go with the Falcons. It's a great value bet right now at a price, given that they are in sole possession of first place. They have a pretty favorable schedule coming up. The Bucs are obviously in all kinds of states of disarray, both on the field and obviously off it with Brady. And on the Senate side, well, I think bettors can probably feel pretty good about Warnock getting through as a slight underdog. I think that it's Herschel Walker has proven down the stretch that he has been able to stay the course while playing I guess what we can only classify as a very, very unorthodox brand of defense.
That is a very fair way to put it. There's another race that has been making the same kind of headlines, but maybe not in the same way, and that's in Pennsylvania. You have Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman on the Democratic side, and then you have Dr. Oz. We live in a very unconventional world at this point. I'm not sure who I would have put more money on who to run, that it was less likely if it was Herschel Walker or Dr. Oz, but here we are with both of them. This is an interesting one, because if you go based off social media, John Fetterman probably has like a 25-point lead. That's all you see are his memes. But Dr. Oz has been at least keeping it pretty close here. What are we kind of seeing from the betting data?
Yeah, this is one where we have a major discrepancy. As you said, Fetterman has kind of been in pole position all the way. If you look at the polls, 538 has him at about 60% probability to win this election. It's been that way, from the word go. Obviously, he had a debate where he was clearly showing some signs of the stroke that he had. And the betting markets are really not nearly as bullish on him at all. To the contrary, they have Oz as a pretty significant favorite at about minus 175. So that's pretty much an inverse to what the polls would indicate, with Fetterman at about 60%. The polls are, the betting markets are basically saying that Oz is north of a 60% favorite. So I think that This one is really going to be interesting, and I think all we could say about it right now is that in the bigger battle between pollsters and betting markets, someone's going to have their hat to hang on and be coming away from this feeling pretty good, because there's a major difference of opinion, if you will, on this race and how it's going to shake out.
Well, you heard it from Matt. This is going to be an interesting one because of, like you mentioned, how different things are. I want to thank Matt Chapralis again for joining us. He was the former head of content at PointsBet. Now he's an industry expert. And again, there is a lot to get to. You can head over to Odds Checker and check out all the odds. You can get everything from Donald Trump to win the presidency at plus 370. He's the favorite, or to not even run at all at plus 265. Matt, things are confusing now in terms of polling and betting and all these numbers we're seeing. So I really appreciate you joining us to help break it all down.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.